In this lecture, we're going to rotate the enemy toward the player while they're being chased. Currently, I'm playing the game. If I walk up to an enemy, they'll start chasing me. However, they're not looking at me while I'm being chased, which can feel bizarre. We should take the time to fix this issue before proceeding. First, we must update the movement component. Open this file with Visual Studio Code. Let's scroll to the update method. In this method, we're calling the rotate method to perform a rotation. However, this method was designed to rotate the player, not the enemy. We'll need to modify the rotate method to allow enemies or players to be rotated. First, let's add a conditional statement before calling the rotate method. Add the following condition: compare tag constants dot player tag. We're only going to call this method if the game object has the player tag. Otherwise, enemies should call this method from the current state. Next, let's update the method to accept a vector. The rotate method was designed to assume where the player can rotate toward. That doesn't make it flexible. Rather than calculating the new rotation, it should be applied with the direction as a parameter. Scroll to the rotate method. Add a new vector parameter called newForwardVector. Inside the method, we can replace the movement vector with the newForwardVector parameter. Lastly, let's update the access modifier to public. If the method were private, we would not be able to call it from the enemy's states. Performing these updates is going to break the movement component. The error stems from the update method. Now that the rotate method expects a value, we must pass in a value while calling it. Let's pass in the movement vector variable, which contains the player's new position. Great. The last step is to update the chase state. We should call the rotate method while the enemy is chasing the player. Switch over to this file. At the bottom of the update state method, we should grab the direction of the player as a vector. Define a vector variable called playerDirection. Its value will be the following: enemy.player.transform.position minus enemy.transform.position. As a reminder, all game objects have the transform component as a variable. This equation should return the direction of the player. This line of code may produce an error. The vector3 class is not available in our state. At the top of the file, add the Unity engine namespace. Without the namespace, we wouldn't be able to access the vector3 class as we're doing in our method. Next, let's pass this variable to the enemy.movementComponent.rotate method. Let's try testing our game. Head over to Unity. Try testing the game. If we approach any enemies, they'll immediately start chasing us. Most importantly, they're rotating in our direction. It doesn't matter if we run around them. They'll always face us. In the following lecture, let's continue improving the enemy's rotation.